At one point, he was the most hated man in America, but he was also its greatest philanthropist. John D. Rockefeller, the world's very first billionaire, was just a man of incredible contradiction. So how are we supposed to make sense of a guy like that? Was he a saint or was he a sinner?
And this slide really just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got this devout Christian, a man who literally invented modern charity as we know it. And on the other, you have a corporate predator who treated business like an all-out war. How can one person be both the builder and the destroyer? Well, let's dive in and try to figure it out.
To really get who this titan of industry was, we've got to go back, way back. His story is a classic rags to riches tale, and it was in the total chaos of his childhood that the iron will of the future billionaire was really forged. I mean, just look at this clash of influences. His father, Devil Bill, was basically a traveling con man who lived a double life. But his mother, Eliza, she was his rock, incredibly religious, disciplined, and hardworking. Can you imagine growing up with that? So at just 16, he drops out of school, and after searching for 6 long weeks, he lands a job as a bookkeeper. That day, September 26th, he called it his job day, and for the rest of his life, he celebrated it more than his own birthday. This right here, this wasn't just some daydream. It was a promise he made to himself. He would actually repeat this to himself every single morning. It just shows you this incredible, almost terrifying level of discipline and willpower, right from the very beginning. He was literally building his own destiny, one thought at a time. So, as you can probably guess, his ambition wasn't going to be satisfied by his first business selling produce. He saw a much, much bigger opportunity in a brand new industry that was chaotic, messy, and just starting to explode: oil. The age of black gold was here. Okay, so before electricity, the world was lit by whale oil lamps, which were expensive, smelly, and getting harder to find. But then came kerosene. A chemist Rockefeller supported figured out how to refine crude oil into this cheap, clean, bright-burning fuel. It was a total game changer. All of a sudden, the entire world wanted light, and Rockefeller was in the perfect position to sell it to them. But look, the early oil market was pure chaos. Prices were all over the place. Now, where most people saw huge risks, Rockefeller saw a massive opportunity. So when his business partner got nervous and wanted out, Rockefeller, who was only 26 at the time, didn't even flinch. He bought him out for a fortune, betting everything he had that he could tame this wild new industry. And this is where the story really takes a dark turn. Rockefeller and his new partner, Henry Flagler, didn't just want to compete in the oil business. No, they wanted to conquer it. They saw business as war, and they were not planning on taking any prisoners. Their secret weapon was actually pretty simple, but it was absolutely devastating: railroad rebates. Basically, they went to the powerful railroads and made them an offer they couldn't refuse. We'll give you so much oil to ship that you'll never have an empty train car again. In return, you give us secret, massive discounts. Just like that, their shipping costs became a tiny fraction of their rivals, giving them an edge that nobody else could possibly beat. And once they had that advantage, they rolled out this brutal 3-step plan. Step 1, lock in those secret rebates. Step 2, slash your prices so low that your competitors are literally losing money on every barrel they sell. And Step 3, when they're on the verge of bankruptcy, you swoop in and offer to buy them out for pennies on the dollar. He called it giving them a good sweating. In just 6 weeks, in an event that became known as the Cleveland Massacre, he used this exact tactic to take over 22 of his 26 main rivals. And the result? Well, it was absolutely staggering. By 1880, Standard Oil controlled 90% of all oil refining in America. 90%. Its pipelines and its influence spread across the country like tentacles, which is how it earned its famous nickname, the Octopus. But when you build an empire that big, that ruthlessly, you are bound to make some enemies. And soon the public, the press, and even politicians started to turn on him. The octopus had just gotten too big, too powerful, and a major backlash was brewing. Leading the charge was none other than President Theodore Roosevelt, the famous trust buster. Roosevelt made it his personal mission to take down these massive corporate giants, and Standard Oil was his #1 target. The government launched this huge, landmark lawsuit, accusing the company of everything from illegal rebates and predatory pricing, all the way to corporate espionage and bribery.
The public anger was fanned into a wildfire by an investigative journalist named Ida Tarbell. And for her, this was deeply personal. You see, her own father's oil business had been crushed by Rockefeller, so she spent years meticulously digging into and exposing Standard Oil's dirty tricks. And her articles are really what cemented Rockefeller's image as the poster child for corporate greed.
So the stage was set for an epic showdown, the most powerful company in the world versus the United States government. It really looked like this was the end for Rockefeller. But what happened next? Well, it's one of the greatest twists in financial history. So after years and years of fighting in court, the verdict finally came down. The Supreme Court found Standard Oil guilty and ordered the company to be completely broken up. This was a fatal blow, right? The octopus was finally dead. Or was it? Okay, so here is the absolutely brilliant twist. The government could break up the company, but they couldn't take away Rockefeller's ownership. So he kept all his shares in all 34 of the new, smaller, baby Standard companies that were created. Companies that you might recognize today, like Exxon, Mobil, and Chevron.
And here is the punchline. As soon as these new companies were allowed to trade on the stock market, investors went crazy. They realized that all these separate pieces were actually worth way more than the original giant monopoly. The value of Rockefeller's stock just exploded. The very thing the government did to destroy his wealth made him history's first ever billionaire. It's just incredible.
So now he's retired and he's richer than any person in human history. Rockefeller turns his focus to building a second empire, and he would apply the exact same methodical, relentless ambition he used to conquer the oil industry to the business of giving it all away. And he gave on a scale the world had never, ever seen before. Over his lifetime, he gave away over $500 million. That's tens of billions in today's money. And this wasn't just some late-life PR move to clean up his image. Guided by his faith, he had been giving a piece of his income to charities since his very first paycheck. He just scaled it way, way up. And he didn't just write checks. He built an institution, the Rockefeller Foundation, to turn his philanthropy into a professional, permanent enterprise that would continue his work long after he was gone. And it did. The foundation's work went on to help wipe out diseases, create universities, and fund scientific breakthroughs that have saved countless lives. And it's still doing that work today. I think this quote from his biographer, Ram Chernow, just says it all, really. His good side was every bit as good as his bad side was bad. It's like he was two completely different men living in one body. On one side, a ruthless, cold-blooded businessman, and on the other, a visionary, deeply devoted philanthropist. And the craziest part is, both sides are 100% true. So in the end, we're left with the same question we started with. Was he a captain of industry, a genius whose ambition helped build modern America? Or was he a robber baron, a predator whose greed crushed anyone who got in his way? The evidence supports both arguments. And maybe the uncomfortable truth is that he was both, and that you simply couldn't have had one without the other.